Shabbat Shalom. Our scripture reading for today is Revelation chapter 19, verses 11 through 16. And I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. And he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True. And in righteousness he does judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Elohim. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. And he treads the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Almighty Elohim. And he has on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Adonai of Adonai.
Shabbat Shalom, family. Our selection today, Ride On King Yahshua.
The oracles of the UCI. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim as dear children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication, and all uncleanness, or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as become saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather given of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth. Therefore, let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. It is a beautiful thing that Yahweh has given us some form of understanding of his word, and that he's given us a place whereby to do that. What we're going to get into today is about a question that Yahweh asked King David. Will you build me an house? That was the question that was presented to Dawid, and we have to consider the things that we have available unto us. And it's important that we don't take those things for granted, but we also do not get complacent. So we have to do all the things necessary to keep moving forward when it comes down to maintaining a house for Yahweh. So we will begin today's sermon in 2 Samuel chapter 7, and we're going to read verses 1 through 29. 2 Samuel chapter 7, and we're going to begin that at verse 1.
Verse 1. And it came to pass, when the king sat in his house, and Yahweh had given him rest round about from all his enemies, that the king said unto Nathan the prophet, See now, I dwell in an house of cedar, but the ark of Elohim dwells within curtains.
Now, the first thing is, at any point in your development, do you sit and pause and consider the things that you have, and then consider the things that the Elohim of Israel has? At any point, do you stop and say, you know what? He has given me this. He has given me that. He's given me this. why does he dwell between curtains? Go ahead.
And Nathan said to the king, Go, do all that is in your heart, for Yahweh is with you. And it came to pass that night that the word of Yahweh came on to Nathan, saying, Go and tell my servant Dawid, thus says Yahweh, Shall you build me an house for me to dwell in?
Shall you build me an house for me to dwell in? Go ahead.
Whereas I have not dwelt in any house since the time that I brought up the children of Israel out of Egypt.
Right. So you didn't get any of this thought process from anything that I have brought toward you, because nobody before you has had this thought. So where you get this from? Go ahead.
Even to this day. But I have walked in a tent and in a tabernacle. In all the places wherein I've walked with all the children of Israel, spake I a word with any of the tribes of Israel, whom I commanded to feed my people Israel, saying, Why build you not me an house of cedar?
Right. See, he was concerned looking at all of the things that he has, saying that my Elohim has to have something better than what I have. This is what I have. It even gets to the point before Yahweh even deals with it. He asks him, did I say anything to anybody to give you the impression that I wanted a house? Where did you get this from? Go ahead.
Now therefore, so shall you say unto my servant Dawid, thus says Yahweh of hosts.
So after he goes through and breaks down the question, now he's breaking down Dawid. Go ahead.
I took you from the sheepcote, from following the sheep, to be ruler over my people, over Israel. And I was with you whithersoever you went, and have cut off all your enemies out of your sight, and have made you a great name, like unto the name of the great men that are in the earth. Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Israel, and will plant them, that they may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them any more, as before time. And as since the time that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel, and have caused you to rest from all your enemies, also Yahweh tells you that he will make you an house.
Right. So Yahweh is saying the same part that he was saying. You have given me rest roundabout. I had to do all of this work and fighting these enemies, but you have subdued all of them before me. And I have a great house and I have a great name. Now it's your turn. Go ahead.
And when your days were fulfilled, and you shall sleep with your fathers, I will set up your seed after you, which shall proceed out of your bowels, and I will establish his kingdom.
Now, the beautiful thing about this question is Dawid is asking the question or wanting to do this before it's time. So when the children of Israel asked for a king, they asked for a king before the time. They asked for a king, they got King Saul. Yahweh wasn't ready to get him a king, but they wanted one, so they got what was available. And he just wasn't. All right, ain't no need of trying to describe. We be all day trying to describe what he wasn't. He just wasn't. Okay, but now you see Israel moving ahead in something good. He says, I desire to set up a house for you. This has pleased Yahweh. He still doesn't do it early, but he announces to him, okay, I because of what you plan to do, I'm going to tell you what I plan to do. Go ahead.
He shall build an house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I'll be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit lawlessness, I'll chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men.
Just like a real father does. I'm going to still whip him, but I'm not going to take my glory away from him. That's the part that we forget as parents. Just because you whoop the child don't mean you took the glory away from him. This is why some people don't whoop their child. Well, I don't want to whoop because I don't want to take nothing away from him. You better beat him. You better beat him. He said, I'm going to whoop him, but I'm not going to take my glory away from him. See, some people don't know how to whoop without taking the glory away. See, that's their own weakness, and then they transfer their weakness onto the child, and now the child is forever going to be weak. Because you took your weakness and put it on them. Maybe you should learn how to whoop without taking away the glory, and then you can whoop your child. Instead of saying, you got a problem with whoopings, no, you got a problem with taking away the glory of that child. That's your problem. But you taking that problem and you magnifying a problem with that kid. Go ahead.
You don't want to take the glory away. You also ain't exercising them demons out of him either.
No. So the glory and the demon growing together. Guess which one gonna win? Go ahead.
But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before you.
Right. Even though I chasten him with the stripes of men, my mercy and the glory ain't gonna go away from him. Go ahead.
And your house and your kingdom shall be established forever before you. Your throne shall be established forever. According to all these words and according to all this vision, so did Nathan speak unto David.
So you don't actually get to build a house, but I'm going to give you something better than the house. All right? I'm going to give you something better than the house. I'm not going, for your desire to build an house, you going to get this. But you're not going to be able to build a house. What he got was better. Go ahead.
Then went King David in and sat before Yahweh. And he said, Who am I, O Adonai, and what is my house, that you have brought me hitherto? And this was yet a small thing in your sight, O Adonai, but you have spoken also of your servant's house for a great while to come. And is this the manner of man, O Adonai?
Now, you have to ask yourself, if David is saying that you have spoken of your servant's house for a great while to come, who are those one book? Now, we in the one book that they say they read, right? Now, who them one bookers that said they don't believe in no Messiah when David said, you have spoken of your servant's house for a great while to come. And is this the manner of man? You going to use me? Now, at this point, let's just go ahead and put it right there. David is a one booker because it ain't but one book. And the one booker believes in the Messiah. Uh-oh, newsflash. How is that possible? The one booker believes in the Messiah. This one booker says, you have spoken of your servant's house for a great while to come. How is it that we run into one bookers and they say, we don't believe in no Messiah? This one booker did. This one booker believed in the Messiah and it wasn't Nan on the scene. Right. Run, go tell that. Go ahead.
And what can David say more unto you? For you, Adonai, knoweth your servant. For your word's sake, and according to your own heart, have you done all these great things to make your servant know them. Wherefore you are great, O Yahweh Elohim, for there is none like you, neither is there any El beside you, according to all that we have heard with our ears.
And that's also one of the things they use right there. There's no El beside him, so there can't be no Messiah. But you see how, but you notice they don't take this one though. They take another one. They don't read. They'll go and use Isaiah. They won't take this one. Now, why do you think the adversary will pick one thing over another? You just read why. Back up, and you get to the point where David says, you have spoken of your servant's house for a great while to come. So they're not going to read that one. They're going to go to Isaiah and say, you see, there's no God beside him. You see that? Ain't no Messiah. Well, wait a minute. What is King David talking about then? So you don't need to just pay attention to what somebody read to you. Pay attention to what they didn't read to you. Why they didn't read that one. Right. Go ahead.
And what one nation in the earth is like your people, even like Israel, whom Elohim went to redeem for a people to himself, and to make him a name, and to do for you great things and terrible, for your land, before your people, which you redeemed to you from Egypt, from the nations and their gods. For you have confirmed to yourself your people Israel to be a people unto you forever, and you, Yahweh, are become their El. And now, O Yahweh Elohim, the word that you have spoken concerning your servant and concerning his house, establish it forever, and do as you have said. And let your name be magnified forever, saying, Yahweh of hosts is the El over Israel. And let the house of your servant David be established before you.
Right. Now, Yahweh said he's going to set him up a great name. And you have to listen to just if you believe in the things that they have put in here for substitutes, it doesn't even make any sense. Verse 26, and let your name be magnified forever, saying the Lord. Wait a minute. He just said the name. Lord ain't no name. His name is Yahweh. Now, when he says he's going to make a great name for David, did David have a great name, David, or did he have a great name with a title? Just king. Did David have a title or a name? He magnified his name. So it doesn't make any sense that Yahweh's name would be magnified, but you walk around talking about the Lord. You ain't magnifying his name. You can't even say it. Go ahead.
For you, O Yahweh of hosts, El of Israel, has revealed to your servant, saying, I'll build you an house. Therefore hath your servant found in his heart to pray this prayer unto you. And now, O Adonai Yahweh, you are that El, and your words be true, and you have promised this goodness unto your servant. Therefore now let it please you to bless the house of your servant, that it may continue forever before you. For you, O Adonai Yahweh, have spoken it, and with your blessing let the house of your servant be blessed forever.
All right. Let's go to 1 Chronicles chapter 22. So in his desire to build Yahweh a house, Yahweh ends up building him an house. He does not get to build the house. Now, a lot of us, that's where we in. All we need to hear is, well, no, I'm going to build you a house, but, you won't build me a house. It ain't the time, and quite frankly, because of your other jobs, I can't let you do that job. For us, that's it. But that wasn't it for him. 1 Chronicles chapter 22, and we're going to read verses 1 through 19.
Then Dawid said, This is the house of Yahweh Elohim, and this is the altar of the burnt offering for Israel.
Now, you have to consider there are things that Yahweh is working on for a long time, and you get brought into the plan at the time that is convenient for you. But don't think the plan just started because you just got in it. Go ahead.
And Dawid commanded to gather together the strangers that were in the land of Israel. And he set masons to hew wrought stones to build the house of Elohim.
Now, you got to, don't miss that first statement. Then Dawid said, this is the house of Yahweh Elohim. And this is the altar of the burnt offering for Israel. It ain't there yet, but he's telling you where it is. Now, how you know that? Go ahead.
And Dawid prepared iron in abundance for the nails for the doors of the gates, and for the joinings, and brass in abundance without weight. Also cedar trees in abundance, for the Zidonians and they of Tyre brought much cedar wood to Dawid.
Right, and we understand that's good wood. To this day, people still want cedar closets, cedar this. There's certain wood that bugs won't even come near. One of the reasons them antebellum homes is still standing, they built them with wood, the concrete that them termites won't even go near. The doggone termites are treated like concrete. That's how I can't bite that. You look at one place and it's all shriveled up, and you look at this old slave house, and this thing's still standing here. Go ahead.
And Dawid said, Shlomo, my son, is young and tender, and the house that is to be built for Yahweh must be exceeding magnifical, of fame and of glory throughout all countries.
And that's something, right? Well, he's magnifical. You know what I'm saying? It ain't often that you hear a brother say, something need to be magnifical. I mean, that's boy, he made a statement right there. This ain't gonna be just no little something right here. It's gonna be magnifical. All right? And he already storing up stuff. See, this is one of the things we make the biggest thing. Just in working on my house, I done had to go to Home Depot 27 times, Lowe's 19 times, because, need this. You know what? I forgot to get this. You know what? I need that circular thing to do that. Dawid stacking up. He not even finna do the job. He's stacking up materials. So that, and then getting people. He's getting workers and materials for a house that he's not allowed to build. Go ahead.
I will therefore now make preparation for it. So Dawid prepared abundantly before his death. Then he called for Shlomo his son, and charged him to build an house for Yahweh Elohim of Israel.
Instructions. Go ahead.
And Dawid said to Shlomo, My son, as for me, it was in my mind to build an house unto the name of Yahweh my Elohim. But the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, You have shed blood abundantly, and have made great wars.
Now, that was the job he was supposed to do. All right? But the job that he was supposed to do hindered him from the job that he wanted to do. But Yahweh still gave him great honor because he wanted to do it. Go ahead.
You shall not build an house unto my name, because you've shed much blood upon the earth in my sight.
So you have to consider in your own life the times that you was about to take a life and Yahweh saved you from doing so. Maybe he had some plans for you to say, you know what? I could let you do this and deal with you on the back end, but there's another part of my job that you're not going to be able to do later on. Go ahead.
Behold, a son shall be born to you, who shall be a man of rest, and I'll give him rest from all his enemies round about. For his name shall be Slow-mo, and I'll give peace and quietness unto Israel in his days. He shall build an house for my name, and he shall be my son, and I'll be his father, and I'll establish the throne of his kingdom over Israel forever.
Now consider now, David got something like 20-something sons, all right? And at some point, the sons end up trying to compete for who's going to be the next ruler. Understand, he's the only one giving instructions about this house. Now, what if one of the other ones become in charge? What happens with Yahweh's house? Go ahead.
Now, my son, Yahweh be with you, and prosper you, and build the house of Yahweh your Elohim, as he had said to you. Only Yahweh give you wisdom and understanding, and give you charge concerning Israel, that you may keep the law of Yahweh your Elohim. Then shall you prosper, if you take heed to fulfill the statutes and judgments which Yahweh charged Moshe with concerning Israel. Be strong and of good courage. Dread not, nor be dismayed. Now, behold, in my trouble I have prepared for the house of Yahweh 100,000 talents of gold, and 1,000 talents of silver, and of brass and iron without weight, for it is in abundance. Timber also and stone have I prepared, and you may add thereto. Moreover, there are workmen with you in abundance, hewers and workers of stone and timber, and all manner of cunning men for every manner of work. Of the gold, the silver, and the brass, and the iron, there is no number. Arise therefore, and be doing, and Yahweh be with you. David also commanded all the princes of Israel to help Slow-mo his son, saying,
Now, David also commanded all the princes of Israel to help Slow-mo. So even in this house, Slow-mo is not the only one that's building it. This is a group effort. Go ahead.
Is not Yahweh your Elohim with you? And hath he not given you rest on every side? For he has given the inhabitants of the land into mine hand, and the land is subdued before Yahweh and before his people.
In other words, we don't have to go out and fight any war, so why would we not be totally about this business? What else do we have to do? We're not having to fight. Yahweh has subdued all of our enemies. So let's be about this business. Go ahead.
You know, verse 12, it's interesting when you think about the what Slow-mo asked for. You look at verse 12, yet David had kind of already planted that seed for what he would pray for. He says, only Yahweh give you wisdom and understanding, and give you charge concerning Israel, that you may keep the law of Yahweh Elohim.
You know, and when you get right down to it, how did both of them, really get in trouble? When they stopped working. When David is sitting on the top of his house, he gets into trouble. He supposed to be somewhere else. Slow-mo got this job to build the temple, right? We ain't get in trouble.
When it was done.
When it was done, now he ain't got nothing to do. Now he's like, these hands. I need to do something with these hands. I don't know what, come here. Come here. I need to do something with these hands. See, that was the problem. He should have built something else. He should have did something. He had to do something with those hands. He couldn't figure out he was handsy. He was real handsy. Real handsy. Right. Should have figured out something else. Go ahead.
Now set your heart and your soul to seek Yahweh your Elohim. Arise therefore, and build you the sanctuary of Yahweh Elohim, to bring the ark of the covenant of Yahweh and the holy vessels of Elohim into the house that is to be built to the name of Yahweh.
All right. So let's go to our 1 Kings chapter 8. So we see that David has the desire. Yahweh explains at some point why he will not allow him to build this house. Sometimes all we have to have is any kind of disappointment, and we out the game. But he did not allow that to take him out of the game. He still prepared for this thing, because at the end of the day, it is about the glory of Yahweh, our Elohim. A lot of times we can't do something because we're too afraid, wondering who's going to get the credit for it. 1 Kings chapter 8, and let's start this at verse 1.
Then Shlomo assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the chief of the fathers of the children of Israel, unto King Shlomo in Jerusalem, that they might bring up the ark of the covenant of Yahweh out of the city of David, which is Zion. And all the men of Israel assembled themselves unto King Shlomo at the feast in the month of Etanim, which is the 7th month. And all the elders of Israel came, and the priests took up the ark. And they brought up the ark of Yahweh, and the tabernacle of the congregation, and all the holy vessels that were in the tabernacle, even those did the priests and the Levites bring up. And King Shlomo and all the congregation of Israel that were assembled unto him were with him before the ark, sacrificing sheep and oxen, that could not be told nor numbered for multitude. And the priests brought in the ark of the covenant of Yahweh unto his place, into the oracle of the house, to the most holy place, even under the wings of the cherubims. For the cherubims spread forth their 2 wings over the place of the ark, and the cherubims covered the ark and the staves thereof above. And they drew out the staves, that the end of the staves were seen out in the holy place before the oracle, and they were not seen without. And there they are unto this day. There was nothing in the ark save the 2 tables of stone, which Moshe put there at Horeb, when Yahweh made a covenant with the children of Israel, when they came out of the land of Egypt. And it came to pass, when the priests were come out of the holy place, that the cloud filled the house of Yahweh, so that the priests could not stand to minister because of the cloud, for the glory of Yahweh had filled the house of Yahweh. Then spake Shlomo, Yahweh said that he would dwell in the thick darkness. I have surely built you a house to dwell in, and settled a settled place for you to abide in forever. And the king turned his face about, and blessed all the congregation of Israel. And all the congregation of Israel stood. And he said, Blessed be Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, which spake with his mouth unto David my father, and has with his hand fulfilled it, saying, Since the day that I brought forth my people Israel out of Egypt, I chose no city out of all the tribes of Israel to build an house, that my name might be therein. But I chose David to be over my people Israel. And it was in the heart of David my father to build an house for the name of Yahweh Elohim of Israel. And Yahweh said unto David my father, Whereas it was in your heart to build an house unto my name, you did well that it was in your heart.
You did well that it was in your heart. You already did the best job right there. Go ahead.
Nevertheless, you shall not build the house, but your son that shall come forth out of your loins, he shall build the house unto my name.
Now, what if we're afraid to tell our kids the truth? You know, because see, some of us got a life, and then we got the life that we told our kids. And what happened when them people run into somebody who knew you? Hey, who you? Oh, you suck, little boy. Oh, yeah. Your daddy will tell you about that time he set fire to this. Oh, he didn't? Oh, your daddy didn't tell you that? Okay, well, never mind then. It's too late now. Go ahead.
And Yahweh has performed his word that he spake. And I am risen up in the room of David my father, and sit on the throne of Israel, as Yahweh promised, and have built an house for the name of Yahweh Elohim of Israel. And I have set there a place for the ark, wherein is the covenant of Yahweh, which he made with our fathers, when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. And Shlomo stood before the altar of Yahweh in the presence of all the congregation of Israel, and spread forth his hands toward heaven. And he said, Yahweh Elohim of Israel, there is no El like you, in heaven above or on earth beneath, who keepeth covenant and mercy with your servants that walk before you with all their heart.
With all their heart. Not who just walk around you. Go ahead.
Who has kept with your servant David my father, that you promised him. You spake also with your mouth, and has fulfilled it with your hand, as it is this day. Therefore now, Yahweh Elohim of Israel, Keep with your servant David my father that you promised him, saying, there shall not fail you a man in my sight to sit on the throne of Israel, so that your children take heed to their way, that they walk before me as you have walked before me. And now, O Elohim of Israel, let your word, I pray you, be verified, which you spaketh unto your servant David my father. But will Elohim indeed dwell on the earth? Behold, the heaven and heaven of heavens cannot contain you. How much less this house that I have built? Yet have you respect unto the prayer of your servant, and to his supplication, O Yahweh my Elohim, to hearken to the cry and to the prayer which your servant prays before you today. That your eyes may be open toward this house night and day, even toward the place of which you have said, my name shall be there. That you may hearken unto the prayer which your servant shall make toward this place. And hearken you to the supplication of your servant, and of your people, Israel, when they shall pray toward this place.
When they shall pray toward this place. So as we pray and we are facing the east, understand something. They're praying toward the house of where his name is. So a lot of times, we'll get accustomed to something. We'll turn around, leave here, be in the middle of the land, and we're so accustomed, we're going to pray to the east. We're looking for the sun and the temple right here, but we praying that way. See, you have to not only know, that you're doing something, but it's important to know why. So when the circumstances change, you change with the circumstances. Go ahead.
And hear you in heaven your dwelling place. And when you heareth, forgive. If any man trespass against his neighbor, and an oath be laid upon him to cause him to swear, and the oath come before your altar in this house, then hear you in heaven, and do, and judge your servants, condemning the wicked to bring his way upon his head, and justifying the righteous to give him according to his righteousness. When your people Israel be smitten down before the enemy, because they have sinned against you, and shall turn again to you, and confess your name, and pray, and make supplication unto you in this house, then hear you in heaven, and forgive the sin of your people Israel, and bring them again onto the land which you gave unto their fathers.
Right. And what happened? Eventually, the children of Israel end up forsaking the house. See, we don't understand the power of the house, the power that was put in it. Go ahead.
When heaven is shut up, and there is no rain, because they have sinned against you, if they pray toward this place, and confess your name, and turn from their sin, when you afflict them.
See, it's impossible for the children of Israel, even to this day, to respect the house, because Israel trying to build up their own house. We try to make our house on equal footing with Elohim. You got to know the difference. Go ahead.
Then hear you in heaven, and forgive the sin of your servants, and of your people Israel, that you teach them the good way wherein they should walk, and give them rain upon your land, which you have given to your people for an inheritance. If there be in the land famine, if there be pestilence, blasting, mildew, locust, or if there be caterpillar, if their enemy besiege them in the land of their cities, whatsoever plague, whatsoever sickness there be, what prayer and supplication soever be made by any man, or by all your people Israel, which shall know every man the plague of his own heart, and spread forth his hands toward this house, then hear you in heaven your dwelling place, and forgive, and do, and give to every man according to his ways, whose heart you knoweth. For you, even you only, knoweth the hearts of all the children of men, that they may fear you in all the days that they live in the land which you gave unto our fathers. Moreover, concerning a stranger that is not of your people Israel, but comes out of a far country for your name's sake, for they shall hear of your great name, and of your strong hand, and of your stretched out arm. When he shall come and pray toward this house, hear you in heaven your dwelling place, and do according to all that the stranger calls to you for.
So how is it that we still have this problem with folks saying that Yahweh doesn't accept anybody but so-called bloodline Israelites? The beginning of the law didn't say that. The beginning of the first house didn't say that. The problem is, heathens want to come how they want to come. And a heathen has to end up abiding by the same, rules and regulations. We can't have a dress code for everybody else. And some say, well, look, hold on now, I'm a Gentile. So I'm going to come in, but I'm going to come in with the short shorts. No, the hell you're not. No, you're not. You're not even going to stand in the parking lot. Go ahead.
That all the people of the earth may know your name, to fear you, as do your people Israel. And that they may know that this house, which I have built, is called by your name. If your people go out to battle against their enemy, whithersoever you shall send them, and shall pray unto Yahweh toward the city which you have chosen, and toward the house that I have built for your name, then hear you in heaven their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause. If they sin against you, for there is no man that sins not, and you be angry with them, and deliver them to the enemy, so that they carry them away captives onto the land of the enemy, far or near.
Now, why is this even his thought? See, the king of Israel understands how Yahweh operates. Yahweh disciplines through captivity. There's a reason why the powers that be do not want you to talk about slavery. Eventually, you're going to connect the dots that this is how Yahweh disciplines his people. It is in the prayer of the first temple. Yet the people who call themselves standing in Israel can't produce to you a real viable slavery in their history. But it's right here in the opening prayer for the house. When they do wrong and you send them as captives. So he understood. Moshe understood. All these people understand that this is how Yahweh punishes his people. We always had this question, why did God allow us to be slaves? Here you go. Go ahead.
1 Kings chapter 8 and verse 47. Yet if they shall bethink themselves in the land whether they were carried captives, and repent, and make supplication unto you in the land of them that carried them captives, saying, we have sinned and have done perversely. We have committed wickedness. And so return unto you with all their heart.
So you understand why people don't want you to return unto your Elohim, right? You understand, because this weakens their hand. If you turn around and say, you know what, we realize what we did wrong, we repent, Abba Father, please accept us, we will worship you with all our heart, all our soul, and all our mind. Then they start to lose their workforce. So it is not in the nation's best interest for you to understand who you are and what you're supposed to be doing. Go ahead.
And with all their soul in the land of their enemies, which led them away captive, and pray unto you toward their land, which you gave unto their fathers, the city which you have chosen, and the house which I have built for your name. Then hear you their prayer and their supplication in heaven, your dwelling place, and maintain their cause. And forgive your people that have sinned against you, and all their transgressions wherein they have transgressed against you, and give them compassion before them whom carried them captive, that they may have compassion on them.
So then Yahweh will cause even your enemy to start having compassion on you. Go ahead.
For they be your people and your inheritance, which you brought forth out of Egypt from the midst of the furnace of iron, that your eyes may be open unto the supplication of your servant and unto the supplication of your people Israel, to hearken unto them in all that they call for unto you. For you did separate them from among all the people of the earth to be your inheritance, as you spake it by the hand of Moshe your servant, when you brought our fathers out of Egypt, O Adonai Yahweh.
All right. So then we see that when it comes down to this power, then everybody gets to behold this power of the house. The power of the house does just not lay on the person who was in charge of the building. It lays upon everybody. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 24.
Second Samuel chapter 24 and verse 1.
And you have to look at a lot of times how Yahweh does something. You know, we want, and it is amazing when you flip through the channels and you listen to the televangelists, how they're directed is always beautiful. I was sitting on my patio. I was looking out at my lake back there in the back, and I said, and God said to me, He said, Daryl, I said, yes. You know, it is amazing how absolutely polished the direction that these people are given who don't even know His name, don't know how to worship on the right day, ain't been baptized in no name whatsoever. But it's amazing how polished their direction is. Now, look at the unpolished direction of a real servant. 2 Samuel 24 started at verse 1.
And again the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Israel.
So he's mad at Israel. Go ahead.
And he moved David against them to say, go number Israel and Yehudah.
Right. He's mad with Israel, but he moved David because David is the king. Now, at what point did Yahweh say to David, oh, David, as you sit out on your patio and look out at your nice pond, oh, brother, art thou? Look here, how I love thee. I'm angry. At what point has this happened? It's amazing how it happened on TVN. It is smooth. Read.
For the king said to Joab, the captain of the host, which was with him, go now through all the tribes of Israel, from Dan even to Beersheba, and number you the people, that I may know the number of the people. And Joab said unto the king, now Yahweh your Elohim add unto the people how many soever they be, 100-fold, and that the eyes of my master the king may see it. But why does my master the king delight in this thing?
Even a nasty general like Joab, no, this ain't no good idea, dog. Bruh, this is not a good idea. But see, when Yahweh leading you, sometimes you can't even figure out what it is you're doing. See, this is that thing that we read. Sometimes when the Spirit direct you, it's like it says when a man is born again, then he becomes like the wind. Like you hear it where it came, you hear where it going, but you don't know the sound thereof. He don't understand what's happening here. And ain't nobody talking to him. I find it utterly amazing how polished these conversations with God are. They're never with Yahweh. They're with God. Mm-hmm. That's your clue right there, too. That's your clue. Who you talking to? Man. What if your woman told you that she was on the phone? You go by and she on the phone 2 o'clock in the morning. Who you talking to? Man. What? What man? Man. I'm going to beat that. Hey. Go ahead, bro.
Notwithstanding, the king's word prevailed against Joab and against the captains of the host.
Against the captains of the host. So other people stood up too. Excuse me, brethren, Broham, brother, king leader, servant of the Most High. This is not a good idea. Yet he kept pushing. Go ahead.
And Joab and the captains of the host went out from the presence of the king to number the people of Israel.
Nevertheless, they followed their instructions. Now, I got to go back. All right. Now, this is the king. This is David. Now, the son of David, Yahshua says, except you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no part in me. Those that got offended, they left. Those who did not put their feelings before them, they stayed and followed the instructions. They didn't like it, but they followed the instructions. Keep reading.
And they passed over Jordan and pitched in Aroer, on the right side of the city that lies in the midst of the river of Gad, and toward Yazer. Then they came to Gilead, and to the land of Tathim Hodshai, and they came to Dan Yan, and about to Zidon, and came to the stronghold of Tyre, and to all the cities of the Hivites and of the Canaanites, and they went out to the south of Yehudah, even to Beersheba. So when they had gone through all the land, they came to Jerusalem at the end of 9 months and 20 days.
9 months and 20 days. That's how long he's being driven, and he can't see what he's being driven for. Go ahead.
And Joab gave up the sum of the number of the people unto the king, and there were in Israel 800,000 valiant men that drew the sword. and the men of Yehuda were 500,000 men. And Daweed's heart smote him after that he had numbered the people.
Right. And it says, when you read in Chronicles, it says Daweed was angry with Israel and he moved Satan against him. So he stepped out the way, let the adversary, the devil, do something, because Yahweh is going to then use what, understand something, the adversary, the devil work for Yahweh too. Don't you nan time get it twisted. He worked for Yahweh. Now, he's an independent contractor. He don't have a uniform. He don't have the benefits. But he worked for him sometimes. Go ahead.
And Daweed said unto Yahweh, I have sinned greatly in that I have done.
Right, now it took him 9 months and 20 days to figure out that he done sin. Now everybody done told him, the nasty general, the other people, all of these people done told him that this was not a good idea. When does he recognize it? When Yahweh allows the demon to step away. Now he sees what he has done. Go ahead.
And now I beseech you, O Yahweh, take away the lawlessness of your servant, for I have done very foolishly. For when Daweed was up in the morning, the word of Yahweh came unto the prophet Gad, Daweed's seer, saying, Go and say unto Daweed, Thus says Yahweh, I offer you 3 things. Choose you one of them, that I may do it unto you. So Gad came to Daweed and told him, and said unto him, Shall 7 years of famine come unto you in your land? Or will you flee 3 months before your enemies, while they pursue you? Or that there be 3 days pestilence in your land? Now advise and see what answer I shall return to him that sent me. And Daweed said unto Gad, I am in a great strait. Let us fall now into the hand of Yahweh, for his mercies are great, and let me not fall into the hand of man.
Now, how many of the people, when this gets ready to come about, how many of them are now blaming Daweed for this? How many have now decided, you know what, I don't want to live in Jerusalem no more? He gonna do this. He gonna cause all these people to get killed. He don't love it. He's supposed to be a shepherd. He don't even love the sheep. Go ahead.
So Yahweh sent a pestilence upon Israel from the morning even to the time appointed. And there died of the people from Dan even to Beersheba 70,000 men.
See, because of his doing, look at what done happened to all loving, precious Israel. I'm moving to Iran. That's what they call it, Iran. I ran away from that. Okay. Where you going? I just ran. I don't know. Go ahead, brother.
And when the angel stretched out his hand upon Jerusalem to destroy it, Yahweh repented him of the evil and said to the angel that destroyed the people, It is enough. Stay now your hand. And the angel of Yahweh was by the threshing place of Arnah the Jebusite.
Now, there are certain parts in the story that seem like they're the small part. But here's the real big part of the story. Yahweh is doing something now. Go ahead.
And Daweed spake unto Yahweh when he saw the angel that smote the people, and said, Lo, I have sinned, and I have done wickedly. But these sheep, what have they done?
It was them sheep that Yahweh was mad at. But he's taking it. But see, this is what a real ruler does. He takes on the sin, whether it's his or not. I'm in charge, so it's my fault. But it wasn't his doing. Go ahead.
Let your hand, I pray you, be against me and against my father's house. And Gad came that day to Daweed and said unto him, Go up, rear an altar unto Yahweh in the threshing floor of Arnah the Jebusite.
Now, you have to then pay attention to some things. Yahweh is not only, he's picking a site where an altar needs to be reared up, but he's having Daweed to do it. He has a prophet. That's what this seer is. This is a prophet who is speaking Yahweh's words to Daweed. You do understand there's a priesthood, right? Why isn't the priest going to rear up the altar? Okay. See, there are certain parts where Yahweh is mixing the kingship and the priesthood, and we don't even recognize it. Here is one of those moments where he tells the king, go set up an altar. Hold on. Ain't this the same thing that got that other dude kicked out? Ain't Now, this is that point where you be like, excuse me, I got a question. You sure you want me to build this altar? Because I think that's why you cut off that last dude. Didn't the last king say he forced himself to make an offering? And you asking me to go and build one after 70,000 people done died. Go ahead.
And David, according to the saying of Gad, went up as Yahweh commanded.
Uh-huh.
And Arnah looked and saw the king and his servants coming on toward him. And Arnah went out and bowed himself before the king on his face upon the ground. And Arnah said, Wherefore is my master the king come to his servant? And David said, To buy the threshing floor of you, to build an altar unto Yahweh, that the plague may be stayed from the people. And Arnah said unto David, Let my master the king take and offer up what seems good unto him. Behold, here be oxen for burnt sacrifice, and threshing instruments and other instruments of the oxen for wood. All these things did Arnah, as a king, give unto the king. And Arnah said unto the king, Yahweh your Elohim accept you. And the king said unto Arnah, No, but I will surely buy it of you at a price. Neither will I offer burnt offerings unto Yahweh my Elohim of that which does cost me nothing.
Understand something. For it to be a sacrifice, it has to cost you something. If it costs you nothing, it's worth nothing. Go ahead.
So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 shekels of silver.
Now, this is a very important price. Go ahead.
And David built there an altar unto Yahweh and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings.
Now, how he know how to do all this? See, a lot of people don't pay attention to something. They say, well, that ain't my job. I mean, I don't need to know that. How he know how to build an altar? How he know how to do the sacrifices? Go ahead.
So Yahweh was entreated for the land, and the plague was stayed from Israel.
So then Yahweh caused the same one that he moved to start the plague, made the very one build the altar, make the sacrifice to end the plague. Yahweh something else. All right, let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 3. Yahweh is something else. Now he could have did, but see how much more problems would he had if the priest had done that. Then you'd had them. Now the priest had to come in here and save this thing after David done came in here just counting people. He don't love the sheep. He don't love them. 70,000 of them dead because of him. But look at Yahweh. He know how to start a party and he know how to finish it too. You think the people didn't know? Oh, no. He built that altar. He did those sacrifices. That's when the plague stopped. 2 Chronicles chapter 3, and we're going to start that at verse 1. Go ahead, bro.
As you say, sometimes that's where it's good to be on the ground floor of the building of a new foundation.
Uh-huh.
Because you got to think about while he was running from Saul, at some point, the Levites had to run from there to join on to him.
Mm-hmm.
So they're rebuilding. As they're doing things, he's right in the midst watching everything that's going on. So he has some understanding of what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. Good. We're going to start this at verse 1. I'm going to get a couple verses out of here.
Then Shlomo began to build the house of Yahweh at Jerusalem in Mount Moriah, where Yahweh appeared unto David his father in the place that David had prepared in the threshing floor of Arnah the Jebusite.
So pause. So Yahweh causes a great sacrifice happening in Israel through this plague that comes among them. Where the plague stops, he's commanded to build an altar. Now you find the beginning of this house, the beginning of the temple is at that place. So Yahweh was doing all of that to show him where the house was going to be. Now, hold on. Now, if you watch this on TBN, the way they found out where the house was, I was just sitting back and I was looking among the trees. And I looked and I saw, is that a myrtle? And the myrtle spoke to the juniper. And the myrtle and the juniper said, build the house in between thee. And I said, that is where the house, I said, God, it's amazing how beautiful that, do you see how ugly that was? For him to find out what a house was. Now, when we watch TBN, that house, there's a dream. There's somebody that talks to us. God gives us measurements. 24 feet by 24 feet by 24 feet. What? What you say, God? Cedar and lace with gold. What you say, God? Real life? He went through hell. Know the difference between that TV worship and the real thing. He went through hell to find out where his house was going to be built. Keep reading, bro.
And he began to build in the 2nd day of the 2nd month in the 4th year of his reign. Now these are the things wherein Shlomo was instructed for the building of the house of Elohim. The length by cubits after the first measure was 60 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits. And the porch that was in the front of the house, the length of it was according to the breadth of the house, 20 cubits.
You know, that's one thing that you always knew. The old country house always had a porch in the front. You know, but you know, we got city wives. We wouldn't. No, we don't want to have that's country. Had a porch in the front. Y'all always say his house supposed to have a porch in the front. Go ahead.
And the height was 120, and he overlaid it within with pure gold. And the greater house he sealed with fir tree, which he overlaid with fine gold, and set thereon palm trees and chains. And he garnished the house with precious stones for beauty, and the gold was gold of Paravaim. He overlaid also the house, the beams, the posts, and the walls thereof, and the doors thereof with gold, and graved the cherubims on the walls. And he made the most holy house. The length thereof was according to the breadth of the house, 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 20 cubits, and he overlaid it with fine gold, amounting to 600 talents. And the weight of the nails was 50 shekels of gold.
The weight of the nails was 50 shekels of gold. Go ahead.
And he overlaid the upper chambers with gold.
Now remember now, Daddy had already been storing up a whole bunch of tools, and he said, oh, and add you unto it. Go ahead.
And in the most holy house, he made 2 cherubims of image work, and overlaid them with gold. And the wings of the cherubims were 20 cubits long. One wing of one cherub was 5 cubits, reaching to the wall of the house. And the other wing was likewise 5 cubits, reaching to the wing of the other cherub.
Now, you can understand how the adversary, the devil, could get puffed up, because in his own thought process, you know, I'm actually represented in the temple, Yahweh, you not. If he's a covering cherub, he one of them, right? Okay, well, his image is actually carved in the house. Yahweh's isn't. Read, brother.
That's when we got this constant images of these so-called angels with the wings.
Right. Lucifer and his cousins. Go ahead.
And one wing of the other cherub was 5 cubits, reaching to the wall of the house, and the other wing was 5 cubits also, joining to the wing of the other cherub. And the wings of these cherubim spread themselves forth 20 cubits, and they stood on their feet, and their faces were inward. And he made the veil of blue and purple and crimson and fine linen, and wrought cherubims thereon. Also he made before the house 2 pillars of 30 and 5 cubits high, and the chapiter that was on the top of each of them was 5 cubits.
So you have measuring, you have, you know, accuracy in the work. So just knowing some of the individuals that we have known, we know they could never have been a part in this building, because the house would have been crooked. You know what I'm saying? The man. Read, bro.
And he made chains, as in the oracle, and put them on the heads of the pillars, and made 100 pomegranates, and put them on the chains. And he reared up the pillars before the temple, one on the right hand and the other on the left, and called the name of that on the right hand Yachin, and the name of that on the left Boaz.
All right. So we then see that the site was chosen. Let's go to Genesis chapter 22. So you understand that Yahweh is a Elohim who operates the same way. Genesis chapter 22. And let's start that at verse 1.
And it came to pass after these things that Elohim did tempt Abraham, and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now your son, your only son Esau, whom you love, and get you into the land of Moriah.
Wait a minute, where is that? Wait a minute, this is Genesis. This is in the land of Moriah. Wait a minute, what else is in the land of Moriah?
Temple.
So, wait a minute. So, Abraham is going to offer up Esau in the land of Moriah, which is the place where the temple gonna be. Right. Your Elohim don't play. Go ahead.
And offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell you of.
Right. Offer him up for a burnt offering. You know the place where I'm going to have burnt offerings to happen. Go ahead.
And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and saddled his ass, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Esaac his son.
You see the difference between believers? Even when they don't understand, they follow. See, you start to understand why before you move on a greater level, Yahweh has to cause a separation. The naysayers would have been asking questions right here. He's saying, go and sacrifice your son. Yahweh is dealing with something greater than him and his son. You about to go to the future temple, dude. You don't even know where you about to go. Now, what if we would have been, wait a minute, Yahweh. You said, why are you talking? Start walking. But see, sometimes we in our own thing of what we don't like, what we don't feel, what we don't believe, you don't understand that this is much greater than you. He's about to walk in prophecy right here. Go ahead.
And clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up, and went on to the place of which Elohim had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young man, Abide you here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you.
Come again. You hear that boldness? You hear that boldness? Me and my son going over here. I'm going to offer him up, but we coming back. We'll be back. We'll be back in a minute. Go ahead.
You know, and in verse 4 also, the upcoming on the 3rd day.
Right.
And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering, and laid it upon Esau his son. And he took the fire in his hand, and a knife, and they went both of them together. And Esau spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering?
I need for every man in here to learn how to pay attention and hear me. There's some information that is on a need-to-know basis. See, some of us, there's just too much pillow talk going on. See, the boy is finding this out on their way, all right? You think he told the mama that he was going to sacrifice that boy? You know, it would have been a whole nother chapter, the fight of Abraham. You understand? There would be a whole nother chapter that we would have to read. There would be songs about it. You know how they had a song, The Blessings of Abraham? It'd be a whole nother fight. The fightings of Abraham. And she swung, he ducked. It would be a whole nother song that we'd be singing. That means he learned how to shut his mouth. Go ahead.
And Abraham said, My son, Elohim will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering.
I'm sure that's the same thing he told his wife. Elohim will provide a lamb for a burnt offering. Now we'll see you when we get back. Come on, son, let's go. Go ahead.
So they went both of them together. And they came to the place which Elohim had told him of. And Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Esau his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of Yahweh called unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I.
But you notice that the angel does not show up until he's right at the last step. Go ahead.
And he said, Lay not your hand upon the lad, neither do you anything unto him. For now I know that you feareth Elohim, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son.
Right. So just like you had this situation where he said, eat my flesh, drink my blood, then he gave something instead of it. Same situation. Yahweh does. You have to learn how your Elohim works. Okay? Go ahead.
I'm laughing. You think Esau told his mom the story when he got back?
I don't think so, because there would have been another song. We'd be singing another song. I don't remember that song, brother. I don't remember that song. You know what I'm saying? We keen on songs. You understand? We keen on songs, brother. No, I don't think he told. I don't think he told. Mama, Daddy tied me down, and he had the knife, and he was just about to cut me open, and then we heard a voice come out of heaven. Oh yeah, why don't you go out to play? Come here, I need to talk to you. Hey, brother, no. Go ahead.
Verse 14. And Abraham called the name of that place Yahweh Yireh, as it is said to this day, in the mount of Yahweh it shall be seen. And the angel of Yahweh called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, By myself have I sworn, says Yahweh, for because you have done this thing, and have not withheld your son, your only son, that in blessing I will bless you, and in multiplying I will multiply your seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and your seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in your seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice.
Because you have obeyed my voice. All right, now let's go to Exodus chapter 3, so that we understand Yahweh works a certain way. Exodus chapter 3, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
Verse 1. Now Moshe kept the flock of Jethro his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the backside of the desert, and came to the mount of Elohim, even to Horeb. And the angel of Yahweh appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burnt with a fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moshe said, I'll now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when Yahweh saw that he turned aside to see, Elohim called unto him out of the midst of the bush, and said, Moshe, Moshe. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Draw not near hither, put off your shoes from off your feet, for the place whereon you standeth is holy ground.
So here it is. He's in, just going in onto this mount, and ends up in holy ground that he don't know nothing about. Go ahead.
Moreover, he said, I am the El of your father, the El of Abraham, the El of Isaac, and the El of Jacob. And Moshe hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon Elohim. And Yahweh said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and I have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppressed them. Come now therefore, and I'll send you unto Pharaoh, that you may bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And Moshe said unto Elohim, Who am I, that I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? And he said, Certainly, I'll be with you, and this shall be a token unto you that I have sent you. When you have brought forth the people out of Egypt, you shall serve Elohim upon this mountain.
Wait a minute. So he leads him to the mountain, then tells him he gonna come back to it, but when you come back, you're gonna have the people with you. So you have to just deal with how Yahweh deals with things. By the time you realize something, you probably done already did whatever that is. You probably done already been where that is. Go ahead.
You know, when you look at this whole situation with Moshe and the where he's standing at, he's telling him past and present.
Right.
Because it's holy ground, because the altar was already erected there by Abraham.
Man, Yahweh is so far ahead. If you one of those people, well, I need to know this. Well, tell me that. I already tell you, he can't use. There's some people, I'm telling you, Yahweh had to cause a separation because he cannot use them people. They are unusable. Yahweh is the Elohim of all the earth and everything that in them is. So there are things that he's dealing with that you won't possibly understand even if he tried to explain it to you. Go ahead.
And Moshe said unto Elohim, Behold, when I come unto the children of Israel and say unto them, The El of your fathers has sent me unto you, and they shall say to me, What is his name? What shall I say unto them? And Elohim said unto Moshe, Yahweh. And he said, Thus shall you say unto the children of Israel, Yah has sent me unto you.
Right. And he got this understanding right at this same place where he's going to lead them back to, and they're going to receive instruction. Go ahead.
And Elohim said moreover unto Moshe, Thus shall you say unto the children of Israel, Yahweh Elohim of your fathers, the El of Abraham, the El of Esaac, and the El of Jacob, has sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together, and say unto them, Yahweh Elohim of your fathers, the El of Abraham, of Esaac, and of Jacob, appeared unto me, saying, I have surely visited you, and seen that which is done to you in Egypt. And I have said, I'll bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt unto the land of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, unto a land flowing with milk and honey. And they shall hearken to your voice, and you shall come, you and the elders of Israel, unto the king of Egypt, and you shall say unto him, Yahweh Elohim of the Hebrews has met with us, and now let us go, we beseech you, 3 days' journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to Yahweh our Elohim. And I am sure that the king of Egypt will not let you go, no, not by a mighty hand. And I'll stretch out my hand and smite Egypt with all my wonders which I will do in the midst thereof. And after that he will let you go. And I'll give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. And it shall come to pass that when you go, you shall not go empty. But every woman shall borrow of her neighbor, and of her that sojourns in her house, jewels of silver, and jewels of gold, and raiment. And you shall put them upon your sons and upon your daughters, and you shall spoil the Egyptians.
Now, there's a little bit more even to go with that than just spoiling the Egyptians. Yahweh is preparing for the next stage of what they have to deal with. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 4. Deuteronomy chapter 4. And I want to read verses 5 through 14.
Verse 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as Yahweh my Elohim commanded me, that you should do so in the land whether you go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, Surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people.
And this is why the nations don't see us as wise and understanding, because we don't operate by the law of our Elohim. This is what's supposed to give us that outlook that we're supposed to present unto the nations. But the nations see us as something else. Why? Because our pastors won't teach this. See? We want to teach faith and songs and love, not instruction. Go ahead.
For what nation is there so great, who has Elohim so near unto them, as Yahweh our Elohim is in all things that we call upon him for? And what nation is there so great, that has statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law?
Right, but do you believe that the law is righteous? See, we believe bits and pieces of the law is righteous when we like it. When we get to a part that we don't like, then we turn into just like those other people. I would follow you, but this is a hard saying. Oh, now the law ain't righteous no more. Because now it done made you change something that you like. Go ahead.
which I set before you this day. Only take heed to yourself, and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things which your eyes have seen, and lest they depart from your heart all the days of your life. But teach them your sons and your sons' sons. Especially the day that you stood before Yahweh your Elohim in Horeb, when Yahweh said unto me, gather me the people together, and I'll make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach their children.
All right, so then verse 10, especially the day that you stood before Yahweh your Elohim in Horeb, when Yahweh said, gather me the people together, and I will make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days that they shall live upon the earth. So the very same place that he leads him, he tells and gives him his name, then you lead them back to me, and then I'm going to tell them my law. Go ahead.
And you came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burnt with fire onto the midst of heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. And Yahweh spake unto you out of the midst of the fire. You heard the voice of the words, but saw no similitude, only you heard a voice. And he declared unto you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, even 10 commandments, and he wrote them upon 2 tables of stone. And Yahweh commanded me at that time to teach you statutes and judgments, that you might do them in the land whether you go over to possess it.
All right. So then, understanding how Yahweh operates, then there are times that Yahweh is moving us. And the ultimate thing that we are aiming for is something that he has already shown us, but something that we just have not been given the ultimate understanding of. Like, he led you to a place, he just didn't tell you it was yours. You know, the first time me and Priest Kish came here, we were learning some things about foreclosures and stuff like that. Here it is, Yahweh was laughing, because it was Egyptians that was in charge of this place. Then Yahweh have us to come and get the place where we learned from the Egyptians at. So he sent us to some Egyptians to set up a house of Israel. But we had already been here, not knowing that it was going to be our place. So when they get to all of these things, he makes sure that leader done already been there. Yahweh has some things going on. And we also see that the site for the house was predetermined. All right? So we have to understand also, when we look at that, the price was also predetermined. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 27. See, the more you understand about how your Elohim works, the harder it is that you will be one of those people who get cut off for their feelings. You need to understand how he works. See, you may be thinking on one level and he's on a whole nother level. But you stuck on your level, and now your feelings have led you somewhere that you can't get back from. See, that feeling trip is a one-way bridge. Once it leads you out on that island, you stuck. Leviticus chapter 27, and let's start that. I want to read verses 1 through 3 first.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When a man shall make a singular vow, the person shall be for Yahweh by your estimation. And your estimation shall be of the male from 20 years old even on to 60 years old. Even your estimation shall be 50 shekels of silver after the shekel of the sanctuary.
Wait a minute, 50 shekels? We done heard that price somewhere. Interesting. Now, and we've encountered this question many a times. If they don't keep birthdays, how in the hell they know who supposed to be paying? Because y'all know some of us look younger, some of us look older. How we going to do that? And it's pretty big difference between and it says and if it be from 5 years old even unto 20 years old, even the estimation shall be of the male 20 shekels, and for the female 10 shekels. So if you can play around with the age, you can play around with the money. Okay. Right. Go ahead. Go jump to verse 14.
And when a man shall sanctify his house to be holy unto Yahweh, then the priest shall estimate it, whether it be good or bad. As the priest shall estimate it, so shall it stand. And if he that sanctified it will redeem his house, then he shall add the 5th part of the money of your estimation unto it, and it shall be his. And if a man shall sanctify unto Yahweh some part of a field,
listen, if he shall sanctify some part of his field, go ahead,
of his possession,
then
your estimation shall be according to the seed thereof. An omer of barley seed shall be valued at 50 shekels of silver.
So how much did Dawid pay for the land?
50 shekels.
Oh, okay. All right. And if it's some part of your field, he got it out of man's field, right? Okay. All right. Let's go to Exodus chapter 25. Exodus chapter 25, and we're going to read verses 1 through 9.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel that they bring me an offering. Of every man that gives it willingly with his heart, you shall take my offering.
Now, he had already provided for them because he said, coming out, borrow of the Egyptians. See, that wasn't just for their own pleasure. He was giving them stuff for them to be able to build the temple. Do you understand? Now, what if we done already made plans for all that? Oh, my goodness. Did you see that go? Oh, my goodness. I got a little ruby necklace for little man. Oh, my goodness. He looks so good at them. Wait a minute. I was supposed to put that on the temple. No, I put those on man. He got those Allen Iverson earrings. It make his ears don't even sit right. They turn this way because they're so heavy. They look so nice on man. You gonna pop them off man's ear. Those going up there. Those for the sanctuary. Right. See? Go ahead.
And this is the offering which you shall take of them, gold and silver and brass.
Wait a minute. Where you get gold, silver, and brass from? They borrowed it. Yahweh already gave you all of the stuff that you need to help build a sanctuary. He already gave it to you. They done borrowed it. What happened when you go build a house? You got to go get a loan. So what you do? You borrow. Go ahead.
And blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair and ram skins dyed red and badger skins and shittim wood. Oil for the light, spices for anointing oil and for sweet incense. Onyx stones and stones to be set in the ephod and in the breastplate. And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them. According to all that I show you, after the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all the instruments thereof, even so shall you make it.
All right. Let's go to chapter 30. Exodus chapter 30, and we're going to read verses 11 through 16.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, When you taketh the sum of the children of Israel after their number, then shall they give every man a ransom for his soul unto Yahweh. When you numbered them, that there be no plague among them, when you numbered them.
All right, now. He led Dawid to number them. All the people kept saying, why do you want to do this? It should have been, after that question, should have been, okay, so who collecting the money after you number us? See, you got to know which question, not just to ask a question. See, this is how we get to that thing. Well, I don't like how you're doing this. Not just I don't like it. All right, now, so we're going to do this. Now, let's get in the book and find out how this is done. Now, when you number them, every man shall give a ransom for his soul. They didn't give that, so then a sacrifice was ordered through the plague. Oh, man, y'all ain't paying attention. Okay. Okay. None of them asked about the atonement money. 70,000 people got sacrificed at the temple place before the temple was built. All of them knew it was wrong to number them, but nobody asked about the atonement money that should have been paid per individual. Then there would not have been a need for the 70,000 sacrifice. Read, please.
They shall give every one that pass among them that are numbered half a shekel after the shekel of the sanctuary. A shekel is 20 gerahs, and half a shekel shall be the offering of Yahweh.
If Yahweh ain't lead me the number, I pray one of y'all said, so Sock, who collecting the money? Because when I wake up, I'm going to slap me a knuckle. You mean that now one of you knuckles say nothing? Remember now, he came to himself. Right. When I wake up, hey, it's going to be on. Go ahead.
Everyone that pass among them that are numbered from 20 years old and above shall give an offering unto Yahweh.
Uh-huh.
The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than
Right.
half a shekel.
If everybody paid their part, everything is taken care of. Then we ain't got to lose 70,000 people. But how many people just mad at Dawid? Matter of fact, how many of us who read the story walking around still to this day, right now, presently, with a problem with King David because they don't understand the law of Yahweh? Right. Read, priest.
When they give an offering unto Yahweh to make an atonement for your souls, and you shall take the atonement money of the children of Israel.
Atonement money. Check that out. Sacrifice, atonement. All of that's going on. Go ahead.
And shall appoint it for the service of the tabernacle of the congregation.
Wait a minute. So the atonement money should be used to upkeep the house. Go ahead.
That it may be a memorial unto the children of Israel before Yahweh to make an atonement for your souls.
Uh-huh. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 14. See, we think we be understanding stuff when our feelings get involved. I can't believe he would do that. This was way bigger than Dawid. See, we say we want to be used as a servant, but then our problem is we want to pick how we get used. No, I'll do this, but I'm not going to do that. Absolutely not. Absolutely not, Yahweh. I just, there has to be a better way for me to serve. Why don't you do it like they do it on TBN? All those people, they serving it's nice, right? Because they serving a different God. Because that's not how this one operates. See? Deuteronomy chapter 14. And let's read verses 22 through 29.
You shall surely tithe all the increase of your seed that the field brings forth year by year. And you shall eat before Yahweh your Elohim in the place which he shall choose to place his name there.
Right. See, this is where Israel gets off. We try to make our little places of play and put them on the same level as the house of Yahweh. And we think we're in sport when we do it. Go ahead.
The tithe of your corn, of your wine, and of your oil, and the firstlings of your herds and of your flocks, that you may learn to fear to Yahweh your Elohim, that you may learn to fear Yahweh your Elohim always.
Right. But when we take our wine over our pot in the house, we drinking over there. Well, Yahweh said, wait a minute. This stuff's supposed to be taken care of at the house. Where you out partying at? See, this is where that shindiggery come in at. See, we got shindigs. So you got servants of the house doing their things at the house. But you got shindiggery going on at other people's house. So what happened then? They taking care of other people's house and neglecting his. So Yahweh come in his house and say, where the wine at?
Oh, it's at Daryl's house. Mm-hmm. We was going to watch the game over there.
Right. Go ahead.
And if the way be too long for you, so that you are not able to carry it, or if the place be too far from you, which Yahweh Elohim shall choose to set his name there.
Right. When you went to Daryl's house, was Yahweh's name over it? Right. Right. Go ahead.
When Yahweh your Elohim has blessed you. Then shall you turn it into money, and bind up the money in your hand, and shall go on to the place which Yahweh your Elohim shall choose.
Uh-huh.
And you shall bestow that money for whatsoever your soul lust after, for oxen, or for sheep, or for wine, or for strong drink.
Wait a minute. He said wine and strong drink.
We said, no, I can't drink strong drink in the house of Elohim.
Now, you can't stumble and fall in the house of Elohim. That means you need to know what your limit is. He said this stuff you're supposed to do in his house. See, this is why we can't reverence his house, because we don't know what things are actually supposed to be done in his house. Read.
Or for whatsoever your soul desires. And you shall eat there before Yahweh your Elohim, and you shall rejoice, you and your household.
Uh-huh.
And the Levite that is within your gates, you shall not forsake him, for he has no part nor inheritance with you. At the end of 3 years you shall bring forth all the tithe of your increase the same year, and shall lay it up within your gates.
So he gave them even a time to prepare for when these things get started. He didn't just throw it on them. Yahweh don't throw anything on us like that. He gives us preparation. Our problem is we partying during preparation time. See, we exercising ourselves in the grace that we have. We think that that's normal. No. This is the grace period. You partying during the grace period. Once this started, it ain't going to stop. You playing. This is not playtime. Go ahead.
And the Levite, because he has no part nor inheritance with you, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow, which are within your gates, shall come, and shall eat and be satisfied, that Yahweh your Elohim may bless you in all the work of your hand, which you doeth.
All right. So now let's go to 2 Kings chapter 12. Second Kings chapter 12, and we're going to read verses 1 through 16.
In the 7th year of Jehoash began to reign. And 40 years reigned he in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Zebiah of Beersheba. Jehoash did that which was right in the sight of Yahweh all his days, wherein Jehoiada the priest instructed him. Now the high places were not taken away. The people still sacrificed and burnt incense in the high places. Jehoash said to the priests, all the money of the dedicated things that is brought into the house of Yahweh, even the money of everyone that passed the account, the money that every man is set at, and all the money that comes into any man's heart to bring into the house of Yahweh, let the priest take it to them, every man of his acquaintance, and let them repair the breaches of the house, wheresoever any breach shall be found. But it was so that in the 23rd year of the king Jehoash, that the priest had not repaired the breaches of the house. Then King Jehoash called for Jehoiada the priest and the other priests, and said unto them, why repair you not the breaches of the house? Now therefore receive no more money of your acquaintance, but deliver it for the breaches of the house. And the priest consented to receive no more money of the people, neither to repair the breaches of the house. But Jehoiada the priest took a chest, and bored a hole in the lid of it, and set it beside the altar, on the right side, as one comes into the house of Yahweh. And the priest that kept the door put therein all the money that was brought into the house of Yahweh. And it was so, when they saw that there was much money in the chest, that the king's scribe and the high priest came up, and they put up in bags, and told the money that was found in the house of Yahweh. And they gave the money, being told, into the hands of them that did the work, that had the oversight of the house of Yahweh, and they laid it out to the carpenters and builders that wrought upon the house of Yahweh, and to the masons and hewers of stone, and to buy timber and hewed stone to repair the breaches of the house of Yahweh, and for all that was laid out for the house to repair it. Howbeit, there were not made for the house of Yahweh bowls of silver, snuffers, basins, trumpets, any vessels of gold or vessels of silver, of the money that was brought into the house of Yahweh. But they gave that to the workmen, and repaired therewith the house of Yahweh. Moreover, they reckoned not with the men into whose hand they delivered the money to be bestowed on workmen, for they dealt faithfully. The trespass money and sin money was not brought into the house of Yahweh, it was the priests.
All right, now I want to read one more thing here. Let's go to Ezra chapter 4. Ezra chapter 4. Whenever there is a push to do something great, you're going to also have some opposition. So we have to look at that in our history as well. Because, you know, there are a whole lot of things that we read about King David having to go through all of these things to even get the location of the house. Do understand, there's a whole lot that was said that's not written in this book. Because you know Israel, we if they had Instagram back then, boy, it would have been so many comments we would have had to read. I can't believe this. So the whole parts that we just didn't get to hear. So I want to make sure I go through this part right here. Ezra chapter 4, and let's start that. We're going to read verses 1 through 15.
Now when the adversaries of Yehuda and Benjamin heard that the children of the captivity built the temple unto Yahweh Elohim of Israel, then they came to Zerubbabel and to the chief of the fathers and said unto them, Let us build with you, for we seek your Elohim, as you do. And we do sacrifice unto him since the days of Esar-Haddon, king of Asher, which brought us up hither.
Now listen. Verse 2, then came to Zerubbabel and to the chief of the fathers and said unto them, Let us build with you. All right? So, verse 1, now when the adversaries of Yehuda and Benjamin heard that the children of the captivity build the temple unto Yahweh Elohim of Israel, adversaries will pretend like they with you, but they have actually gathered together to slow down your progression. So there's some that you have to know to cut off. Now you have to think. There are certain times that Yahweh has caused separation within this organization. Why? Because as we get ready to move forward, as we are setting forth pillars in the ground for Yahweh, they would have been setting up pillars for themselves. Why? Because we already watched what they've done. So before we go forward, Yahweh makes them turn. Then he goes on another level with us. We know that by what has historically happened in the book. Keep going.
But Zerubbabel and Yeshua and the rest of the chief of the fathers of Israel said unto them, You have nothing to do with us to build the house unto our Elohim. But we ourselves together will build unto Yahweh Elohim of Israel, as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, has commanded us.
Now, I want you to make sure you understand and hear. They are not denied from helping to build the temple because they are foreigners. They are being denied because they are adversaries. Do understand what the separation is. They are fake helpers of the builders of the building of the temple. They are fake. They are pretending. But you'll be looking for your hammer, you can't find it. They done took your nails and moved them. Hey man, what was the wood? I cut this wood and we about to put it on this wall. You done went and the wood gone. Now you cutting another piece of wood. Now you got the wrong side. What are they doing? Frustrating your efforts while pretending that they're helping you. Go ahead.
Then the people of the land weakened the hands of the people of Yehuda and troubled them in building.
When they couldn't fakely joined, then they openly showed their hand. Pay attention, Israel. Go ahead.
And hired counselors against them.
Hired counselors. They get together so that they can talk about you. Go ahead.
To frustrate their purpose.
There you go.
All the days of Cyrus, king of Persia, even until the reign of Darius, king of Persia. And in the reign of Ahasuerus, in the beginning of his reign, wrote they unto him an accusation against the inhabitants of Yehuda and Jerusalem. And in the days of Artaxerxes wrote Bishlam, Mithridath, Tabiel, and the rest of their companions unto Artaxerxes, king of Persia, and the writing of the letter was written in the Syrian tongue and interpreted in the Syrian tongue. Rehum, the chancellor, and Shimshai, the scribe, wrote a letter against Jerusalem to Artaxerxes, the king, in this sort.
All right, so then we find a real concerted effort then to frustrate the building of the temple, even by fake wannabe people. But we're going to close with this. As Yahweh stated unto Israel in Horeb, you have dwelt long enough in this mount. So it is with us. We must prepare to build another house for our Elohim. We have set up another entity as the storehouse for our temple fund, which is Pleasant Plant Ministries, LLC. We must understand that we can't neglect the house we have to build the house we want. We must still maintain what we have as we move forward. A portion of every donation that comes into the house will be diverted to the temple fund. So many of you have already given to the temple fund by doing your normal tithing, and we thank you. For any who would like to donate directly to the United Congregation of Israel's temple fund, you can do so now through Zelle under pplantministries@gmail.com. And if you need the understanding of what P-Plant is and what Pleasant Plant is, Isaiah 5 verse 7 says, for the vineyard of Yahweh of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah, his pleasant plant. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.